I like to begin with, I guess the first thing everybody wants to know is, can you tell us what submission you chose, and what stood out to you in this entry that made it the winner of the contest?
Um, I chose, so just for those who might not be familiar with the process, I received a set of short stories without the names of the authors included, and I reviewed them and I made a selection. And the winning story is named Snakebite.
Why do you think it's important for a writer to enter a writing contest and not keep their work to themselves?
I think that it's part of the professionalization process for writers, and that just means all the things that you do to start learning what it means to try to circulate in the literary world. So sending your work to journals, going to literary readings as an audience member, going to literary readings as an author, um, submitting your work to contests, all of those are part of how you begin to navigate the world of lit, and so I think it's just part of a bigger process that's useful.
So, with the submissions of the in the writing contest, this snakebite story stuck out the most from anything. Is there anything in particular that you liked about it?
Yeah, it went right into my dreams. Those, that's one of the first things I'll say. I do not count that as our criteria necessarily, but I will say that that's something that I found kind of interesting. I actually kind of had a little dream that was clearly influenced by having read that story. And that to me speaks to the fact that it kind of got me at a visceral level. The action that was happening in the story, both the physical action happening in the story, but also just the emotional kind of experience that the characters were going through were very visceral for me, and they really affected me. And so I really appreciated that the writer's ability to invoke that viscerality. I'm not even sure if that's a word now that I think about it. Visceralness, viscerality.
Yes.
But anyways, that visceral response in me as a reader, it felt good. I love being stirred up that way. And not just any writer can has the gift to do that. Robin does. I think there was one other thing that really kind of jumped out for me is um I feel like this author is a person who really gets people, who really observes people. Sometimes I'll read stories or even entire novels, and I think, does this author ever actually engage with human beings? Because it feels like they just don't get human beings. Like how, what are their drives and motivations and fears that drive their actions? Um, but I feel like this author uh, has like a really good understanding of what makes people tick. And that's again a very important gift for an author to have. And I definitely saw it in Snakebite.
That's good. Um, uh, what advice do you have for the students here at Tusculum University that would like to follow in your footsteps and become a successful writer like you?
Um, I would say a couple of things. One of them is that your literary path is going to be so individualized and so specific to your experiences and most importantly, your relationships that there's not a clear path to it. And that's something that I often will, mention at author talks is like, if I wanted to become an operating room nurse, I know exactly what I need to do. I know exactly, how many years it can take and exactly what classes to take and what professional experience to develop. And I will be a nurse in an operating room at a certain point. It's just there's a path. For writers, it's so much more opaque and so much more ambiguous. It just depends on so many different things. And certainly for me, in my case, one of the things that I learned over time was just that, like, one of the, the important things are, of course, keep reading, keep writing, keep honing your craft, try to engage with your fellow writers, support your fellow writers. And I say that because I do think that the for me, um, the my path was built on relationships. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Those are the three most important things in an author's journey are relationships, relationships, and relationships. Treat people well. Treat people well. Um, and that's what I found has really paved the road for me over time. And the twists and turns of it are really unpredictable. You just don't know how it's all going to come together, or if it's all going to come together, frankly. Uh, and somehow for me, it did. And when I look back on it, on the journey, it makes sense, but only in the rearview mirror. Only when you look back on it, it's like, oh yeah, so I made that connection 15 years ago, and then we did this, and then they turned me on to this publishing opportunity and introduced me to this. It was that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Those relationships were very golden, and I was just doing that organically because that's how I operated. I didn't understand that that was also a kind of professional strategy that you could have is, just build. And I don't mean in the transactional way, like, here, let me be your friend so I can get something out of you. No, it's not that. It's let me be in community with you. Let me support your work. And if you can, support mine. Um, it's more like that. It's not transactional. You're not just trying to extract and take. But so yeah, I think I would offer that thought.
And during that journey to becoming a successful writer, what was the hardest thing you had to overcome during your journey?
The biggest bastard in my way was me. It, it was always I was always the problem child in the scenario. I think that I my own self-doubts, uh, my own the way that I would neglect my work. I think that that was a big obstacle in the end. That was a huge challenge. Now, I was also dealing with, just the reality of a literary world. Like, is there a place for stories about an elementary school queer kid growing up in a migrant farm worker camp? I haven't seen that story before. Is there a place for something like this? I don't know. Should I even bother writing it? Does anybody give a damn? I don't know. But I went forward. Yeah.
Obviously, they did. Obviously, they did. Um, is there anything that you are working on right now that you'd like to share with us?
Um,
I
Share
mean,
in terms of just like discussing it.
you don't have to go into like, deep things,
Yeah,
but
I'm happy to share a little bit about some of the stuff I'm working on. I'm working on another collection of short stories, and I'm also working on a graphic novel. Um, and the collection of short stories will include some more stories with characters that were introduced in Gordo, which my book is right here. I'm trying to be a good promoter. This is the book.
yes.
And there'll be more of those characters will be reappearing in future stories. That's what I think is going to happen. I've already started writing those. Um, uh, I'm uh, I'm also working on a long form story, which was originally just going to be a normal length story that I would typically write, somewhere between that 12 and 30 page range.
Hmm.
But I can tell it's going to get big. It might even become novella sized, and it's about healers um, in rural, especially, but also urban communities of Mexican people, both in Mexico and Mexican immigrants in the United States. There's a long-standing tradition of healers. So when people have these medical ailments that they feel they can't get treated at a regular doctor, or if they just prefer to go to these healers, they will go. And these people can do a range of things like bone setting, therapeutic massages, herbal treatments, uh, exorcisms. They can, if you have a hex on you, they can do what they call a limpia or a cleansing to remove the bad supernatural mojo out of your body. Just all these kind of range of services that they provide. And I'm doing a kind of a long form story about a curandera, a healer that my family went to for decades,
Hmm.
including me. When I was in my 20s, they took me because I had gotten very sick, and the doctors were having trouble finding out what was wrong with me, and excuse me, not finding out what was wrong with me, but healing me. So we just were kind of desperate, and we went to go see her. So that kind of got me thinking about her more and more, and I'm thinking about healers and their places in traditional communities. The place of the person who people go to when they're at the end of their rope, and that they are desperate for help. So that's been kind of intriguing for me. Yeah. I'm also kind of doing work on I just got a wonderful grant to support the writing and illustrating of a chapter of a graphic novel that I actually finished a long time ago. But it was a biographical graphic novel about transgender activist Adela Vasquez, who's a former friend of mine who very tragically and surprisingly passed away in her kitchen in October. And I just got really passionate about writing and illustrating another chapter to this graphic novel about the later years of this person's life and what older queer kinship looks like. What does family look like for people who have been exiled from their home country and their biological family and everything that was once familiar to them? What does kinship look like anymore, especially as you get older and you need more help? So that's an interesting theme for me.
They sound like they're going to be both interesting stories that you are coming up with.
Thank
Sounds
you.
really good. Well, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today and discuss the winning entry of the 2025 Fiction Chapbook Prize. It was very nice to meet you. I hope someday I'll get to meet you in person and talk to you.
Oh, yes. If I'm ever in your neck of the woods or you're ever in Northern California, do let me know and I'll be happy to connect with you. May I add one more thing about snakebite that I really appreciate?
Absolutely.
One other thing that I think is really beautiful in snakebite is that it really, I think, there's a way that you feel like the main protagonist in snakebite who is a firefighter is responding to a really like frightening crisis situation. Uh, and at the same time, his mind is kind of going back and forth between the crisis at hand and the crisis at home with a family member who is just having a lot of problems. And it's his mother. And so on the one hand, he's trying to deal with this emergency, but he's also a part of his brain is over there and it's dealing, turning over ideas of like, what the hell am I going to do with mom? She's a mess. And, and I think that that was really beautifully done in the story. And it really shows how our minds are kind of that sometimes we're living in two places at once.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
And I really appreciated the almost cinematic ability of this writer to take us to two places, to alternate between two sites.
that's really nice. Well, again, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today in your busy schedule.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
we'll get to talk with you soon
It was a
again.
pleasure to read these wonderful stories. Congratulations to all the writers. I think you took your work to a very fine level, and I hope you'll all feel very encouraged. Just keep going with that work. And to Robin, the awardee, congratulations. Your story is beautiful. I'm amazed at all you managed to accomplish in just 11 short pages of a story. It was quite a feat. Congratulations.
All right. Thank you, Jaime Cortez. Have a good
Okay.
day.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.